If all the members voted, tie the roll. Roll call shows 92 members present. Chair declares quorum for conducting business. Please welcome today the Doctor of the Day, Dr. Kate Wilkes, from Associate Statewide Medical Director, First Interior. Thank you. Also, I'd like to make sure we recognize the parents of the interns that are joining us in the gallery. Thank you for joining us today. House motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when we do adjourn, we adjourn until March 16th.
Heard the motion, the second. All those favoring indicate saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is adopted. I banged the gavel a little early there. That is Thursday, 11 a.m. Thursday, 11 a.m. Chair seeks consent to take committee reports en masse. Chair hands down the following committee reports for adoption. Senate Bill 15, Senate Bill 171, Senate Bill 302, Senate Bill 317, Senate Bill 332, Senate Bill 423, Senate Concurrent Resolution 5, Senate Concurrent Resolution 6, Senate Bill 298. Consent. Committee report.
Senate Bill 15, a bill for enactment in the Indiana Code.
Further committee reports. There any discussion? Chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee report. Those in favor indicate saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Committee reports are adopted. We will move to the third reading calendar. Chair recognizes Representative McNamara, Senate Bill 48. Chair hands down final passage, Senate Bill 48.
Senate Bill 48, a bill for enactment in the Indiana Code.
Chair recognizes Representative McNamara for discussion on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Senate Bill 48 would provide that a criminal prosecution of a sex offense committed against a child that would be otherwise barred by statute of limitations. It can be commenced within 5 years from the date of which the state discovers the DNA evidence, the state learns of a recording that provides evidence sufficient to charge the offender, or a person confesses to the offense. Senate Bill 48 extends the protections of Jenny's Law that we passed in 2015 to make it consistent with what Jenny's Law was in 2015, which in that case, just as a reminder, it came about from an individual who came off the street into a police station and confessed to rape, which had occurred 9 years earlier. Despite his confession, the man escaped prosecution because of our statute of limitations. So this will lift it and gives you 3 opportunities for the statute of limitations to be extended. The other piece, it clears up from Senate Bill 155 from last year on human trafficking. It changes a word from 4 to 2 and basically specifies that a person who commits human trafficking, if the person pays money to a human trafficking victim. That's what the bill does, and I appreciate your support.
Further discussion on the bill? Chair sees none. The author has the right to close. She waives it. Question is on final passage of the bill. All those in favor will, machines open, vote aye. Those opposed, vote no. While the members voted, tally the roll. Roll call shows 89 ayes, 0 noes. The bill has passed. Shall I title the bill remain in the title of the act? Clerk shall inform the Senate of the passage of the bill. Senate Bill 106, Representative Wesco. Chair hands down on final passage, Senate Bill 106.
Senate Bill 106, a bill for enactment in the Indiana Code.
Chair recognizes Representative Wesco to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. Senate Bill 106 regards local powers concerning elections. It provides that a unit does not have the power to adopt an ordinance, resolution, or order concerning certain elections or otherwise conduct an election except as expressly granted by statute. In other words, a local unit in the government can't get willy-nilly and start passing all their own election laws and setting it up. And we had a local unit of government do that, where they decided they were going to get rid of their mayor by setting term limits, creating term limits for their mayor, for their city council members, and The Constitution gives the legislature the authority to make law regarding elections, and this just really clarifies that in our state statute. I want to thank my co-authors, Representative Cheery, Representative Pryor, and Representative Boyd.
Further discussion on the bill. Representative Boyd, speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I think this might be a record. We all agreed on this one the first time and get out of committee in 15 minutes. This is a really good bill, and I hope you vote for it. Thank you.
Further discussion on the bill. Chair sees none. The author has right to close. He waives it. Question is on final passage of the bill. All those in favor will, when the machine is open, vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. Representative Shackelford, Representative Summers, would you like to vote? Have all the members voted? Tally the roll. Roll call shows 91 ayes, 0 noes. The bill is passed. Shall the title of the bill remain in the title of the act? Clerk will inform the Senate of the passage of the bill. Senate Bill 181, Representative Jeter. Chair hands down final passage Senate Bill 181.
Senate Bill 181, a bill for enactment in the Indiana Code concerning.
Chair recognizes Representative Jeter to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I want to thank Representative Steuerwald Meltzer for joining me on this bill. The Attorney General has the statutory duty to prevent and restrain antitrust violations in our state. Those claims can be brought either under federal law or state law. Over the course of the years, the states have enacted laws that provide much more comprehensive remedies than do federal law. And that's really what Senate Bill 181 attempts to do. It attempts to bring us in line with about 40 other states and the antitrust remedies available to them. So first thing it does, it authorizes the Attorney General to bring an action for antitrust violations on behalf of Hoosiers, both directly and indirectly, which federal law already allows for direct consumers, people who buy directly, but for indirect consumers, only the state allows us remedies for that. Authorizes the Attorney General to recover civil penalties of not more than $100,000 per antitrust violation for an individual, $1 million for a corporation. 40 other states currently have this exact same civil penalty. And it also authorizes the pursuit of injunctive or equitable relief, makes it very clear in the law that the Attorney General can make the behavior stop. And when we're talking about antitrust violations, really we're talking about price fixing, bid rigging, boycotting, things like that. And so this bill does not change any of the private rights to action that are currently available under federal or state law. An example really of why this bill is needed, I always like to try to give you an example of what's currently ongoing. That Indiana is one of 38 states currently involved in the Google Play Store litigation, which involves the restriction of certain, trying to restrict vendors from getting their apps out to consumers. And Indiana is one of only 2 states in that lawsuit that will have no civil remedies available when it's settled or adjudicated, because our laws just simply are not the same as the 40 other states. So this bill came out of the Senate 48-0, out of Judiciary 11-0, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Further discussion on the bill? Chair sees none. The author has the right to close. He waives it. The question is on final passage of the bill. All those in favor will, when the machine is open, vote aye. Those opposed, vote no. I got you. Last one, too. Representative Bartlett, would you like to vote? Have all the members voted? Tally the roll. Roll call shows 93 ayes, 0 noes. The bill has passed. The title of the bill remain in the title of the act. Clerk shall inform the Senate of the passage of the bill. Senate Bill 296, Representative Jeter. Representative Jeter passes. Senate Bill 331, Representative Jeter. Chair hands down on final passage Senate Bill 331.
Senate Bill 331, a bill for enactment in the Indiana Code concerning.
Chair recognizes Representative Jeter to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. My brain will only hold 2 bills per day, so.
We thought you were showing off for your intern today, intern's
Yes.
parents today, Representative Jeter.
Unlike most of the country, Indiana generally allows criminal defendants to depose prosecution witnesses. That's not allowed in most states. In fact, Indiana is one of only 6 states where you can do that. This right is neither it's neither constitutional nor absolute. And in fact, in 2020, this body, without a single vote in opposition, restricted the right of defendants accused of sexual offenses against children. The statute sought to protect children from being deposed by their alleged assailants. It was this body's effort to balance the interests of the defendant to prepare a defense and the state's strong interest in protecting child victims. That statute limited depositions of child victims of sex offenses to those that are under 16 years of age. If they're under 16 years of age, the defendant must first go through the prosecuting attorney. If the prosecuting attorney does not agree, then the defendant can go to the court and make a showing of extraordinary circumstances to get that deposition approved. Shortly after the statute was enacted in 2022, it was challenged. That case went all the way up to the Indiana Supreme Court. It was challenged by a criminal defendant whose attempt to depose his 8-year-old victim was denied. The Supreme Court, in an opinion of 5-0 in June of 2022, upheld the statute in furtherance of this body's valid public policy objective and held that defendants' right to confrontation and due process applies at trial and not pretrial. Since that time, crafty defense attorneys can be crafty, have worked to end run the statute by using other procedural rules and even conducting informal statements to get around the statute. This bill closes those loopholes and makes it very clear that any contact or communication or interview of a child sex victim must follow the procedures in the statute, go through the prosecutor's office, or through the judge. It effectuates, I think, what we always intended, upholds our policy, came out of the Senate 49-0, out of the Courts and Criminal Code Committee 12-0. Appreciate your support.
For discussion on the bill, Chair sees none. Authorized right to close. He waives it. Question is on final pass to the bill. All those in favor will, when she's on vote aye. Those opposed vote no. Representative Fry, Representative, all the members voted, tie the roll. Roll call shows 90 ayes, 0 noes. The bill has passed. The title bill remains the title of the act. Clerk shall forward and send the patch to the bill. Senate Bill 379, Representative Steuerwald. Chair hands down final passage Senate Bill 379.
Senate Bill 379, a bill for enactment in the Indiana.
Chair recognizes Representative Steuerwald to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. This is our annual update that comes to us from the professional licensing agencies. This ensures that Indiana's drug schedules will be in compliance with the federal drug schedules that they have. So, as I said, this comes to us annually. For one reason or another, it didn't get done last year, so it's very important we get this done this year. If you look at the bill, I don't know if it's goes into a great deal about these different kinds of schedules, but what's different this year as opposed to the past, there's a separation with the drug fentanyl, similar to what we did a couple of years ago with heroin. We took heroin out of the general category of dealing with a narcotic drug, made it a separate listing. And we've done that with this year with fentanyl. As you know, and as you've heard many, many stories, just how deadly fentanyl is compared to almost any other drug. A milligram of fentanyl is deadly, unlike almost any other narcotic drug. We met with LSA to go over proportionality. We compared it with what we did with heroin a couple of years ago. I do think it's proportionate to what we've done. Considering the deadly nature of fentanyl, we have levels 5, 4, 3, and 2 felonies, depending on, and it's all dealing, depending on the weight of the grams that are in being sold with a fentanyl-containing substance. And I appreciate your support.
Further discussion on the bill, Representative Pierce, speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker of the House. I supported this bill in committee and will again on the floor, but I just want to make a couple points, particularly for people who are new to the body and have not been here over the past decade as we've attempted to implement or really bring home the benefits of criminal code reform that we put in place in 2014. So the first thing that we're doing in this bill, which is really not good, and I think we kind of agreed in committee, we probably won't allow this to happen again, but the Senate put in a substantive provision. This bill really is just almost like a technical bill in that what happens is we constantly have innovative chemists creating new versions of drugs where the molecule's just slightly off, and that technically is not illegal because it's not on the list of illegal drugs. So we're constantly chasing the chemists to get the list updated. So we have a process now where we can have administratively people identify the new drugs they're seeing on the street, and then once a year to make sure everything's constitutional, we put it into the law, since we're supposed to pass the criminal laws. And so that's a necessary thing we have to do every year. Never before have we actually put a substantive, new penalty, or in this case, increased penalties into the bill. And so I think that would have been better served in another piece of legislation. I think in committee we decided we would discourage that from happening in the future, so I decided not to make too big of a deal out of it, but not the best. As far as the provision itself, the point I would want to make is I'm willing to support this provision because there is no doubt that fentanyl is a different kind of drug and it's resulting in the death of a lot of people, and it's just a small, few granules in some other drug like heroin, and you can take people out. And so the provision is proportional. It kind of reflects that additional danger. So I think you can justify it on that ground. The problem is, or the thing you have to keep in mind, is when we did criminal code reform, we determined, we had experts come in and talk to us, and what they said is that, what you want to do with your criminal code is you want deterrence, right? We hope that we'll pass a law that says if you engage in a particular act, we will punish you by depriving you of your liberty or requiring some other accountability. And we hope that will cause people to say, oh, okay, I don't want to do that because who wants to go to jail or pay a fine or whatever. What the experts say is once you get above a certain level of penalty or sentence, you don't get any more deterrence. So what you want to do is you want to try to find the sweet spot where you have a strict enough penalty that it deters people, but once you get beyond that, you're just wasting your resources because you're putting people in prison for a really long time and you're not deterring any more people from committing the bad acts. So you have to kind of be a little scientific about how you do that. So in this case, what we're going to be tempted to do, because you get into this mindset as a legislator that, gee, the worse the crime or the bigger the problem we have with a crime at any one time, all we have to do is just keep increasing the penalty, and you'll get more and more deterrence. So if you get a lot of fentanyl, just make the penalty really high. People would say, holy cow, they're really cracking down on fentanyl, I better move on to the next thing. And it just doesn't happen that way. So it's easy to continually increase penalties under the belief that you're going to have more deterrence and that will lead to less crime. So here's my general fear about this bill. It's just we're going to pass it, we're going to go home to a town hall meeting, and somebody's going to say, what are you guys going to do about fentanyl? I know people who have died of fentanyl. This is a problem, we got to do something. And we will puff our chest out and say, we already got it covered, we increased the penalties. We showed them. But in reality, I don't think it's going to have much of an impact at all as far as how many people are using drugs with fentanyl or end up dying from fentanyl. What that requires is much harder work. That requires figuring out what are your public health programs, or what are going to be your ways that you're going to try to deter people from taking the drugs. That's much harder work. And I'll just give you one example of that. So it wasn't too long ago that we had a huge problem with meth labs. People literally making meth in liter bottles, right? And it was a real problem because not only was that providing meth to people, which is bad for them to take, but it was creating hazardous waste sites all over the place. And you could increase the penalties till the end of time, and you probably would not have put it down in that problem. But Representative Schmaltz came up with a bill which analyzed what the issue was, and we all agreed, let's deprive the meth cookers of the key ingredient they need to make the meth. And we passed that bill, and without relying on big increased penalties, the problem of meth cooking basically went away. Now we got a secondary problem that the meth is getting manufactured in huge facilities in Mexico and China or wherever, and they're coming in. So we still got a meth problem, but we at least got rid of the hazardous waste site ad hoc meth labs. So that's an example of fighting crime in a smart way that actually gets something done. It's just too easy for us to increase penalties and then go home and say we solved the problem because it's a higher penalty. And all we've really done is we're going to chew up a lot of resources, warehousing people, that doesn't make us any safer. So I just wanted to make that little speech to particularly those of you new to the body who were not around here for the debate and discussion a decade ago when we did criminal code reform.
For discussion, Representative Andrade, speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Our nation has been flooded with fentanyl and has become the leading cause of overdose in the opioid epidemic. Since 2019, for Americans, again, from the ages of 18 to 45, fentanyl deaths have surpassed car accidents, COVID-19, cancer, and suicide, according to the CDC data compiled by the Families Against Fentanyl. The presence of fentanyl is also highly unpredictable. Often people don't know they're taking a drug with fentanyl in it because it's able to be mixed with fake pharmaceuticals, candy-colored pills, and even other controlled substances. This is an urgent threat to our communities and all Hoosiers. Legislation like Senate Bill 379 is needed to strengthen our laws to fight against this poisonous substance. Far too many Hoosiers' lives have been taken by fentanyl. Friends and family members across our community are hurting from the loss of a loved one. Let us continue to raise awareness about the dangers of fentanyl and the importance of removing it from our communities to save lives and bring the dealers to justice. I urge your support.
For discussion on the bill, Chair sees none. The author elect to close. He waives it. Question is on the final pass of the bill. All those in favor will machines open vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. If all the members voted, tally the roll. Roll call shows 92 ayes, 1 no. The bill has passed. Shall the title of the bill remain in the title of the act? Clerk shall inform the Senate the passage of the bill. Senate Bill 445, Representative McNamara. Chair hands down final passage, Senate Bill 445.
Senate Bill 445, a bill for enactment of the Indiana Code.
Chair recognizes Representative McNamara. Speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Senate Bill 445 is a follow-up to electronic monitoring standards from last year's Senate Bill 9. It will have JRAC, and JRAC, to remind you, is the Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council. They'll develop electronic monitoring standards and submit an annual report to those standards. JRAC may conduct a workload study of electronic monitoring in home detention, make certain findings, and submit a report to the Legislative Council no later than July 1st of 2025. It'll provide that a contract employee of a supervising agency is required to notify the supervising agency of certain actions with respect to tracked individual not later than 12 hours after the action occurs. That would be something like their monitor isn't working, it goes offline, or something like that. It's going to increase the flexibility for reporting agencies by allowing this 12-hour window to report disturbances for monitored individuals who are determined to be nonviolent. If they are a violent offender, it will require this notification to be sent within 15 minutes if the tracked individual is serving a sentence of a crime of violence or a crime of domestic or sexual violence. Additionally, it requires the supervising agency to notify a vulnerable victim and request law enforcement to do a welfare check. If there is a vulnerable victim, prioritizing this 15-minute notification to the supervising agency will help in recognizing where the violent offender might be. It will also specify that supervising agency must include a quarterly report of the number of tracked individuals who are on parole supervision and the number of false location alerts, device malfunctions, or both. And it will provide that the local supervising agency shall report directly to the local JRAC. The Division of Parole Services shall report the statewide Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council each quarter. And lastly, it'll require the statewide JRAC to transmit an annual electronic report to the Legislative Council each year by March 15th. Approximately, there are 1,800,000 offenders on electronic monitoring. This will allow us to standardize what those systems look like, and that will be through JRAC. I would appreciate your support.
Further discussion on the bill? Chair sees none. The authorized right to close, she waives it. Question is on final passage of the bill. All those in favor will, when the machine is open, vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. While the members vote, the title of the roll. Roll call shows 93 ayes, 0 noes. The bill has passed. Shall the title of the bill remain the title of the act? Clerk shall inform the Senate of the passage of the bill. Consent to take committee report out of order. Committee report.
Senate Bill 9, a bill for enactment of the Indiana Code concerning utility.
Further committee report, is there any discussion? Chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor indicate saying aye. Those opposed, no. Committee report is adopted. Committee announcements.
Wednesday, March 15, 2023, 8:30 a.m., Room 156B, Judiciary. Senate Bill 5, Consumer Data Protection, Representative Lehman. Senate Bill 287, Various Probate and Trust Matters, Representative Torr. Senate Bill 156, Tax Sales, Representative Slager, amend and vote. Senate Bill 345, Termination of Parental Rights, Representative King, amend and vote. Wednesday, March 15, 2023, 10:30 a.m., House Chamber Education. Senate Bill 167, FAFSA, Representative Baining, amend and vote. Senate Bill 342, Teacher Hiring, Representative Baining, amend and vote. Senate Bill 168, Statewide Assessment Results, Representative Baining. Senate Bill 321, Student Health Matters, Representative Teshka. Senate Bill 340, Imagination Library, Representative Nagel. Senate Bill 404, Access to Transcripts, Representative McGuire. Wednesday, March 15, 2023, 10:30 a.m., canceled. Room 156B, Natural Resources. This meeting has been canceled. Senate Bill 412, Natural Resources Matters, Representative Lindauer. Wednesday, March 15, 2023, 11 a.m., Room 156A, Courts and Criminal Code. Senate Bill 286, Credit Time, Representative Steuerwald. Senate Bill 71, Parole, Representative O'Brien. Senate Bill 136, Conviction Data, Representative Bartels. Senate Bill 158, Domestic Violence, Representative McNamara. Senate Bill 301, Sex Offenses, Representative Nagel. Wednesday, March 15, 2023, 1:30 p.m., Room 404, Ways and Means. Senate Bill 74, Local Use of Restricted Funds, Representative Prescott, hearing only. Senate Bill 151, Foster Families, Representative Shibley, hearing only. Senate Bill 325, Homestead Standard Deduction, Representative Thompson, hearing only. Senate Bill 327, Gary Community Schools, Representative Thompson, hearing only. Senate Bill 419, State Tax Matters, Representative Thompson, hearing only. Wednesday, March 15, 2023, 2 p.m., Room 156B, Environmental Affairs. Please note the time change to 2 p.m. Senate Bill 155, Air Pollution Control, Representative Morrison. Senate Bill 451, Carbon Sequestration Pilot Project, Representative Morrison. Senate Bill 472, Advanced Recycling, Representative Morrison. Thursday, March 16, 2023, 8:30 a.m., Room 156B, Family, Children, and Human Affairs. Senate Bill 265, TANF Eligibility, Representative Clear. Senate Bill 334, Simplified Application for SNAP Benefits, Representative Clear.
Is there further business from the chamber? Chair sees none. The chair recognizes Representative Vermillion for a motion. You hear the motion in a second. All those in favor indicate saying aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes. We are adjourned.